Welcome to the Developing Life Podcast. Welcome to episode 16 of the Developing Life Podcast. Businesses seeking to align their success with social responsibility are met with the challenge of forging identities that not only connect with consumers, but genuinely care for the communities in which they exist. What systems can they implement to ensure that their brand not only thrives in the market, but also actively supports the health of our planet and society as a whole? Today, we are joined by brand strategist and creative guru, Sirena Andras, a master in sustainable branding and the force behind Creative Chi, crafting visual identities and empowering brands to embody authenticity and environmental integrity. As a passionate advocate for the B Corporation movement, she's worked at the forefront of integrating corporate ethos with environmental stewardship, pushing brands to embrace purpose-driven innovation that is good for the planet. A dedicated mentor in the blue tech space, Serena's journey into sustainability began over 2 decades ago in Miami Beach, where she first merged her artistic design talents with her deep commitment to the environment. She combines her love for the principles of Tai Chi with her expertise in branding, making hers a unique voice to foster brands to prioritize and well-being of both planet and people, a mission she further advances through her mentorship of climate-forward practices and B Corp certification, helping to shape the next generation of sustainable leaders. With our host, Heather Crank, Sirena will share how to build brands that not only lead with purpose, but also create substantial, measurable, and positive impacts for a more sustainable world.
Thank you, True. Hi, Sirena. Welcome. It's so nice to have you on the podcast.
Hello. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course. So can you just, we had a great intro, but just a little bit about yourself for our audience, what you're doing right now, where you're located while we go through this conversation, and just give a little intro.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Sirena Andras. I currently reside in Miami Beach, although right now at this particular moment, I'm in Spain, which is home for me, where I grew up. And I'm on this kind of 5-6 week hiatus. I say hiatus, I'm still working, but doing so in a more slow fashion, so that I can, maintain my balance and my composure so that I can go back to, go. But right now it's all good. Where I come from, I spent basically over a decade in as an art director in luxury magazines. And in the beginning, it was awesome, photo shoots and these luxury publications where sometimes you got to keep the clothes and all of these amazing things and go on location. But soon I figured out that I wanted to tell a deeper story, and that they weren't having. So when I realized that it wasn't in integrity, that I was using my creative talents basically to con people into buying things that they don't need and are terrible for the planet, I went out on my own. And then that's how I discovered certified B corporations. And I decided that if I was going to be in integrity with that mission of creating a better world, that I was going to certify my agency. And so 7 years ago, I certified my Creative Chi, my branding agency, as a certified B corporation. And ever since then, it's been a journey. It's still a journey. I always like to say that sustainability is definitely not a destination. It's a journey, because we're always learning more. There's always new things on the horizon. There's always more that we can do. So did I get everything?
Yes, that's perfect. So in your journey into sustainability, is there a particular area you're currently focused on with your business?
Within sustainability, I'm a lot in the blue tech space, mainly just because I'm a mentor in that space. But I've had clients that, purpose-driven marketplace is one of my clients. Swim school is another one of my clients. As long as they also have a mission to create a positive ripple effect with their business, then that's the people that I want to work with.
Right. And for those people who don't know, can you explain what blue tech is?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's so many new words these days. Blue tech is basically any kind of innovative technology that benefits the ocean in
Mm.
some capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that might be people working with sargassum. Right now, there's a lot of, recycling of sargassum. But it could be something, as even a swim school technically is blue
Mm-hmm.
tech on some level, right? Keeping people safe around water. I feel like it's a big, big space, and it's anything to do with the ocean and
Mm-hmm.
leaving a positive ripple effect in the world.
Right. And even your name alludes to the ocean, Sirena. If those people who don't know, I think Sirena means mermaid. Am I right?
It does, absolutely. My in Spanish, my mother did. I like to say my mother had the gall to call me mermaid. Like that is not something people did back then.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you were a hippie, which she wasn't. But she literally called me mermaid in Spanish. Not too long ago, I was doing an ocean event actually, and I didn't hire, somebody else had hired a sound healer, and he reached out to me, and he was, a Hispanic speaker, and he was texting me, and he said, "Could you please tell me your name? Because all I see here is mermaid." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that is my name. I am a mermaid." And it used to be, when I was a child, it was kind of a cutesy thing. And then as I became, a woman, it was kind of sexy. But now I'm like, now I'm growing into that name as a totally different thing. It's more of a calling,
Mm.
uh, a war cry, that
Mm.
siren, that kind of a mermaid. Like now I want to use it as a force, to make sure that I do something good with the ocean. We all know that the perils of what's going on with our ocean right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to bang on that drum, but I can say, um, you know, what can we do in business to create a better world for a better ocean tomorrow? And that's what's in the blue tech space. And I'm seeing all of these amazing startups that just have ideas that where they're getting these ideas from, I don't know. I don't care. Just, come and let's see if we can get these funded and get these going, because time is running out.
Yes, that's true. And I saw this morning there was a great post on LinkedIn where someone loved your tagline around the siren. Can you reiterate that?
So a while back, I changed. I gave myself a new middle name. So I'm not just Serena anymore. Now I'm Sirena del Mar. So like Serena of the ocean, just to reiterate the fact that I'm a mermaid. And then I had the tagline for a while, the sustainable branding sensei, or sustainable brand sensei, because of the Tai Chi, and I
Mm-hmm.
am a Tai
Mm-hmm.
Chi instructor, and it made sense. And I had like, helping brands kick ass. But like a week or two ago, I decided that I wanted to lean even more into the ocean thing, and I wanted to help brands create waves. I was like, well, why don't I just change it from sensei to siren? So sustainable siren I am now, instead of sensei, which whatever, teacher or guide or, ocean illusion, whatever you want, just as long as I can get that job done.
I love it. And I love the siren part because it really brings the warrior aspect forward. And I feel like we need that right now. Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's, sensei or siren. I feel like they're both really, really strong words. One
Yes.
being more the teacher, the other one being more of a, yeah, if we don't get this done, I'm gonna be like a mama bear. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so let's go back. So part of your mission is you like to take businesses and help them shift their focus over to becoming a B Corp and focused on plant and people. How do you do that? How do
Yeah.
you, when you encounter someone, how do you get them to change perspective?
Right. So let's be honest. Most of the people that are in my circle are already wanting to do this.
Right.
It's just doubling down on it, right? And other
Mhm.
creatives, there's not a whole ton of creatives that are like, yeah, sign me up to lie to people and and do things that are horrible for the planet. That there's
Mhm.
people, they do it because they don't see another way, right?
Right.
So I'm hoping that there is another way. And I know that by shifting my business, I can
Yes.
maybe influence other businesses to shift. And by, really doubling down on the B Corp movement and educating more and more people that there is a different way to do business, that we don't have to do business the way it's been done. And, I'm not going to convince Exxon tomorrow that they're not going to change, right? But
Mm-hmm.
maybe there is a brilliant new startup that's going to really put them to the test, and that's going to
Mm-hmm.
have a different ethos. And when everybody at Exxon goes and works for this, new XYZ company that really has a great ethos and has decided to go completely, renewable energy or whatever have you that people are really passionate about,
Mm-hmm.
we create our new world. Instead of, we don't really have to fight the old world. It really is about creating a new way and creating a new world. And that is what the B Corp certification gave me as an
Mm-hmm.
individual who worked in a field that I couldn't stand.
Yeah.
It gave me a way to say, it's not what I do. I love what I do. I love branding. I love graphic design. I love visual identity. I love all of that stuff. As long as I can do it and it has a positive ripple effect, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not, going against my own integrity.
Mm-hmm.
So if I could create a world where where I can get more clients, great. So I figured, let's go out there and introduce this new way to the world. And there's tons of people that are like, absolutely, this is what I want to do. I want to shift my business. And one of those great examples is a swim school in Miami, Oka Aquatics. She, of course, was already a conscious capitalist, which is a part of this movement as well. But when she learned about B Corp, she was like, yeah, this is, and all the metrics are here.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can do this, I'm like, on board. And not only did she do it, and we're talking about 150 employees, 5 swim schools in Miami. This is not
Wow.
a business. And she took it a step further. And this year, after being certified for 2 years, 1 or 2
Mm-hmm.
years,
Mm-hmm.
she just became also employee owned. So
Wow.
now she has 50 owners in this company.
Wow.
So that's really cool. And all of
That's
these
super
people are
cool.
educating their family and their friends and the 150 employees. So that's how we grow a movement, and
Mm.
we change systemically, hopefully change how business runs. At
So
least,
oh, sorry.
no,
So
no,
for
no.
the for those people who don't have never heard of a B Corp or maybe aren't 100% sure, why is a B Corp important? Like, what is it about them that makes them special?
They are, well, currently right now, if you talk about a sustainable business,
Mm-hmm.
really aren't any metrics where it's
Mm-hmm.
just marketing. And
Mm-hmm.
all of us that do marketing know that that's worth nothing. It's, whatever we want, whatever we want to say it is, it is. Here in the EU, they actually do have more rules and regulations, and you can't say stuff that you're not doing. But in the United States, we could pretty much, it's the wild, wild west when it comes to marketing. We can pretty much say anything and get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
So every company is saying that they're sustainable. So then you're at this point where you're like, well, I want to do better. And most consumers will, like the statistics are like 80-something% will pay more for something that is having a better impact on the planet and people. But how do you know that everybody's saying that they're doing it? So how do you know? And that is really where certifications come in. And B Corp is one of the highest standards that there is out there. It's not easy to become a B Corp. It's a rigorous thing. It takes most companies, it took me a year. I was by myself. Obviously, people that have consultants help them can get
Mm-hmm.
through a lot faster. But it's also, B Lab itself was backed up. We more than like doubled our number in the past 3 years. Ever since
Wow.
COVID, people have really been understanding that they need to do things differently.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of B Corps has skyrocketed, and it's a
Wow.
very coveted certification. And it's not only a certification on a product, there's a lot of product certifications. So if you go out and buy a pencil and that it's the, I can't remember the name right now, the forest stewardship certification. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of sustainably harvested.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that it wasn't like totally carved by somebody that was not paid an appropriate amount of money in a country far, far away, where B Corp kind of makes sure that you're looking at all of those things. So really is a certification that you're running your business with a triple bottom line. Triple
Mm-hmm.
bottom line meaning people, planet, and profits. So you're taking all of those things into account, not on a product by product basis, but on how you run your business. So the entire thing, not just like, okay, so this, this one case is, sustainable. Well, what about everything else in your business? And what
Right.
about governance?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what B Corp does. It makes sure that you're doing kind of all of the above, and it's a third party, and you have to re-up every 3 years. And
Wow.
the standards don't stay the same. Like, they keep changing them and they keep
Oh,
upping
wow.
it. So
Wow.
it's the real deal.
It's a real deal. So let's move for a minute into mentorship. I know that you like to be a mentor for people in the blue tech space. How do you choose somebody to mentor? Like, do you have a process, selection process, or is it sort of just the universe bringing people to you, or how does this work?
It's a little bit of all of the above. So through the B Corp movement, we have created Florida for Good.
Mm-hmm.
And Florida for Good kind of serves as our own umbrella in our state. We are like way behind other states, like if you look
Mm-hmm.
at California, they might have like 360 B Corps. And in Florida, we have 50. That's it.
Wow.
In Miami, when I started, there was only 3 B Corps. So
Wow.
literally anybody that would listen to me, I would talk to them about B Corp, and I would be happy to, basically mentor anybody and show them along this route. But through that movement, I really started mentoring students at UF, just because one of the members of Florida for Good is an instructor at UF, and she has an
Mm.
amazing program, Dr. Kristen Joyce, at the University of Florida. And so I started mentoring her students through the program, and they were hands-on, taking other businesses that wanted to become B Corp certified. And
Mm-hmm.
so they would bounce things off of me to see if they were doing it right or if they had questions. So I started mentoring there. And then I joined Seaworthy, which is a Miami-based blue tech incubator. And I sort of, got on the board. And then they were like, well, do you want to help with the students? Do you want to do? And I'm like, absolutely. I can help them with their pitches. I can help them brand themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm kind of in that in those cohorts,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
mentoring, giving classes on, what I'm proficient at.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if they hear this podcast and they're interested in having you as a mentor, how would they go about contacting you?
So, I mean, I don't do any like direct one-on-one mentoring. I do it through those programs mainly because
Okay.
it would probably become a little overwhelming for me. But you can always reach out to me. I'll point you in the right direction or help you if I can.
Is there a place online people can go to sort of look up the resources around B Corps or how to connect with these organizations you're speaking to around mentorship or just beginning to stick their pinky toe into the blue tech space?
Yeah, well, whether it's B Corps or in blue tech, blue tech, there's quite a few incubators. And if anybody, the one that I'm, on the board of, Seaworthy, always looking, and it's completely free for the cohorts. All you have to do is apply and basically have a great idea that they think can be successful,
Oh,
and
okay.
you can get into the incubator. So that one's easy, just apply. As far as B Corp, amazing resources online. For my own website, explaining what a B Corp is, kind of in layman's terms, to their website, the B Corporation website, which has all kinds of resources and education. And there's even a B Corp directory for jobs from B Corps. So if you're like, oh, I really want to work for a B Corp, and you go in that directory, and at least you can see, what's available right now.
So, what advice would you give people who maybe are working in the design field, particularly people who make products or packaging or things that go directly into the landfill? What advice would you give them? And your thoughts around how we can transition into more sustainable or climate friendly
Yeah.
options?
Oh my gosh. as far as designers go, if you're designing packaging, is just try to have some influence around it. Obviously starting at the most sustainable option. It all very much depends. There's there's a lot of numbers and metrics and craziness around that. For me personally, I would be like going to paper maybe instead of plastic.
Right.
But really ideally circularity. And that we're not really talking about that much right now because it's just so tough to be 100% circular in the sense that if I give you a product in this container, I am going to get this container back and use it again.
Oh, right.
Completely.
Okay. Okay.
Like I'm not producing anything new. I mean,
Mhm.
in a perfect world, that's what we're looking for. So if you're a designer and a product designer, and you can somehow convince your company to go completely circular, please, let's do that. If not, let's do the least amount of damage that we possibly can. And there's definitely, lots of resources and people that are actively doing this. I'm not much of a product designer myself. I'm
Right.
more on the end.
Yes.
But just from doing the work and having to do it for my own company and understanding, the reduction of the materials and,
Mhm.
stuff that I'm putting out there,
Mhm.
tried to minimize it as much as possible. And where I can't minimize, obviously just elect the very best choice.
Yes. We spoke about this in the panel we had last week, that feeling of um even if I recycle or even if I do this thing, it's not enough, or it's sort of a myth, that it's helping. How can we overcome that sense of overwhelm? At least I know I feel that, especially with what I see happening with with the climate right now in Oregon. We're on fire again, and it's happening every year. It's getting hotter and hotter. People are suffering everywhere, and it's going to speed up. Um, what are your thoughts around dealing with the guilt or the pain around this? Or how do you deal with it personally? And how can we keep going despite feeling overwhelmed or discouraged?
Helpless.
Helpless. Yeah.
When I watch fish kills happen in my backyard,
Oof.
I feel helpless
Yeah.
because you feel like there's not enough that you could do.
Yeah.
And honestly, this is kind of where my Taoism and Tai Chi practice comes in. We can't do it all. We can't do everything. Anything that we do is a step in the right direction.
Mhm.
For me, that was, making my business a certified B Corporation. I felt like if I did that, I was doing the most that I could possibly do. If I can mentor people in a blue tech space and help them with my talents so that they're successful and can create a bigger impact. And the more brands that I can help and they make a bigger impact, I'm
Mhm.
doing something.
Mhm.
Um, you just have to find what your something is, and it's okay if it's baby steps. It's okay if right now it's recycling. It's
Mhm.
okay if right now it's a beach cleanup.
Mhm.
I like to say that recycling and beach cleanups are gateway drugs to, doing more and more and more.
Mhm.
Do anything and don't beat yourself up about it. And we can't control everybody else. And I know that, oh my gosh, I would love to, and just be like, okay, all of those horrible corporations, we're just going to make them end now. But that's not the reality. So the only thing that we can do is create a better world for tomorrow, the one that we want to live in, and
Mhm.
use our talents towards that. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, that might just have to be baby steps right now. Just make those baby steps as quickly as you can, because time is of the essence.
Oh my God, it's true. So right now in this particular moment in time, do you have a dream project or dream partnership that you're thinking about?
Dream project or partnership. Oh my gosh, I'm sure I do, but I'm in that as a branding person, I'm in that space where I want to, rebrand companies that are really ready to go to the next level with their sustainability,
Mhm.
um, out in the world and also inside their own companies. Because some of them are just systemically probably not set up. So, any like, yeah, corporate that's like, you know what, Serena, yeah, we're ready to double down on all that stuff. And you know, and it doesn't even matter what it is. It could be Coca-Cola. It's not going to be Coca-Cola. You know, just yeah, ready to make that shift and really say, we want to become a certified B Corp. We want to do everything that we can. We want to make sure that our employees are on board and that they're living a purposeful and fulfilling life through work as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I guess I'm not specific, like I don't have one brand, but or one type of brand, but any of them that are ready to like help create that new world.
Mm. So I also am very curious about your Tai Chi background. How did you discover Tai Chi and what drew you to that path? And how do you integrate that in your daily life?
I mean, looking back at it, it seems kind of silly. Well, I was working in an office where I did not like my job. So that led to quite a bit of, you know, anxiety and questioning of what was going on in my life. But also, oh, sorry. But also what happened was I had my second child, a son,
Hmm.
and I was breastfeeding him, and something hormonally was just wackadoo, and I could not work out at all. I've worked out my whole life, and I could barely even do yoga at that point. I would just get these debilitating migraines, and so what I thought is that the only thing that I could even think of doing was Tai Chi. Like, here's something that's super gentle,
Mm-hmm.
and that was 15 years ago now.
Wow.
And I've just been doing it since. I'm absolutely in love with it. It definitely balances out my life. And from learning Tai Chi, I sort of dove into Taoism and the whole
Mm.
philosophy of that is behind that, and really the balancing of the yin and the yang. And when you start applying that to everything that you do, you're like, oh, wow, if we only lived in balance, we would be fine. If we didn't take from the earth more than we really needed and more than it could regenerate on its own, we're golden. So it really is just getting everything back into balance. And the
I
practice
love that.
helps me stay there personally.
Do you have a particular practice you use to keep in balance in your day or?
Yeah. Well, from everything from doing actual physical Tai Chi,
Yes.
to you know, I love Wim Hof breathing. Breathing helps a lot. Ice baths,
Hmm.
yoga, hiking, just being out in nature. It just hiking and being out in nature, I feel it brings me right back to really being present, being alive, understanding that this is the best that I'm feeling, and that I want to make sure that everybody else gets to feel like this too, which is why I have that, you know, protection of it. I want it to be here for my kids. I want it to be here for other people that are feeling stressed out, burnt out, or, you know, going in circles. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
hoping that everybody has some sort of a nature practice, even if it's just taking a walk around the neighborhood.
Right. And especially now, we're moving into this hyper technological era. And one of my concerns is we're spending so much time on our devices and with AI and robotics coming in, there's a potential to be this huge disconnect from nature. Um, Even though some of the technology has a level of intelligence where it may be able to help us solve bigger problems, there's also the potential for this sort of hyper alternative world that we could live in. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this and how we can stay connected to nature while things accelerate and the new technology comes in.
I mean, I literally think that we need to give ourselves some disconnection time.
Hmm.
And I can see a difference between myself and my children, for example, that even for me, it's hard to pull away from
Hmm.
social media or whatever it is that's got me sort of hooked in. But for them, it's so much more so because their friends, their communication is on there. I remember with the whole Web3 thing, you know, and these virtual worlds. My son is actually living in these virtual worlds. Like he plays with his friends in them. So for him, it's like not a big deal that there's nobody to play with at the park to not go outside. That's fine. He'll
Right.
just jump into his virtual world.
Mm.
But you're lacking a lot of your senses. Like you're not in your body, you're in your brain, maybe in your eyes. But that's it. Like you're not feeling, touching, I don't know, smelling nature, listening to the birds. Well,
Hmm.
maybe a simulation in there somewhere. Um, so I really think that we have to give ourselves a disconnect. Like I will force, you know, my kids to take the phone away from them for, you
Hmm.
know, hours a day and say, guess what? um, Go outside, especially now that we're here. Now I take it away from them longer than that and say, you know, we're going to the beach, we're going here, we're going here, we're going to go on a hike, we're going to go do these things so you could physically be in your body.
Hmm.
And I think that that's really important. We're a society that is, especially in the US, very much trapped in our mind, you know,
True.
like everything is up here. And that's part of the Tai Chi practice too, right? It's just getting people to drop into the rest of their body. Feel your heart, feel your lungs, feel your feet, feel that energy that's from here down.
Yeah. I think that's so lacking in our culture in general. And as we speed up and speed up and speed up, we have this desire for things to go faster and faster and faster, and we're completely missing out on the present, which is something that I absolutely adore about Tai Chi and the way you speak to that. I think that's so beautiful.
Yeah, being in the present moment is even in business. I mean, we were on a call, I think it was, I'm pretty sure it was Christo, a call with Christo where he said, stop presenting to your clients and be present.
Yes.
Uh, Duh. Like, what am I thinking? Like, how did I drop my whole practice as soon as I got nervous and stood in front of a client, right?
Yes.
Where the most important thing that you could do is be present with them and try and figure out what it is that they need from you. And it's really
Yes.
about being present with them.
Yeah. And that's the trap of speeding up, is that if you're too much in your head, it's very difficult to listen to other people. If you're not able to be present, there's no way you can give space to somebody else. And I loved what you said earlier about slowing down. And I actually read an article about how important it is to slow down and that you can be a lot more effective. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. 100%. And every time, and I'm guilty just like everybody else of the go, 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 go. I can
Yeah.
get this done. So I can get this done quicker.
Hmm.
And I'm sure just like everybody else, you realize how much you screw up when you do that and how you have to
Hmm.
do things over again,
Hmm.
or how you get in this, like I get in this thinking tornado. And once I'm in that thinking tornado, it's not usually a positive thinking tornado. So I that's when I catch myself and stop. And it's just like, okay, get out of the chair, go outside, do anything, either do some Tai Chi, go for a walk. I love to walk around my neighborhood. I am you know, lucky enough to live on the water and
Hmm.
actually see sea life like right there, whether it's dolphins, or we now have a local sea turtle. I named her Shelly, and now the whole neighborhood knows her. My husband's like, don't tell anybody, they might take her or do something to her.
Oh.
Hey, they're, you know, a pretty rare animal, but she's amazing. And just to go outside, and I'll wait for 20 minutes for her to come up. And because they have to come up, take a breath.
Hmm.
I know her hiding place. That could completely change my day. And then when you go back to sit down at whatever it is you were doing, there's a whole new wave of better ideas. So it's so important to make that space, take that break.
Hmm. I agree 100%. All right, so we are at 1:34. If anybody has any questions, please drop them in the chat and I will make sure and ask. I'm going to give people just a second if they have anything, and we'll just see. So I also love the idea of balance. I think that's hugely important. Maintaining your center and maintaining your balance and being able to keep perspective. I would love to hear your thoughts on, let's say you have a very, very stressful, busy day with your kids, with your clients. How do you come into your center and stay balanced?
Um, I wish that I could tell you that I'm always balanced, but I'm human and I lose my crap too. But I think it's in that moment when it's being aware that you're sort of losing it and going, whoa, what was that? And being able to just see it and be present with it and not beat yourself up for it.
Hmm.
And then it kind of passes like a wave. And then the next time that you run up against that same situation, hopefully you'll do better. But if you lose it and you don't do better, you come back to the mat, right? You just come back to the, okay, I screwed up, I lost my temper, whatever it was. I'm just gonna be with it and I'm gonna be okay with it. I mean, hopefully nobody is out there punching holes in walls, but if you do, patch it up. Other than that, my practice.
Hmm.
Definitely my practice. Or even like I just said, just going for a walk when I'm really not feeling like things are flowing for me.
So when you're being with something, what does that involve? Like, how do you be
How
with
do
a
you
feeling?
be without being, yeah, I guess if you don't have a meditation practice, this probably sounds very strange. Being is like when we meditate, letting the thoughts and the craziness go ahead and go on. It's not about trying to stop them, resist them, fight them. It's about sitting back and sort of watching them
Hmm.
and being okay with whatever goes by, kind of like birds in the sky or clouds in the sky, and just watching them and understanding that you're the observer and not the thought.
Mm.
So it's the same practice, right? If I do something that I'm not proud of, or even if I do something that I'm proud of, it's not really me, the person underneath, the core. It's just something that occurred.
Mm.
And creating space to be able to just be a witness to that, to watch it,
Hmm.
understand that it's something that happened. It's not who you are.
Right.
That makes sense. I know it's very
Yeah.
kind of ethereal, woo woo. Um, but it really is about understanding that every second is a new second and you can birth a whole new you.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Okay, I've got two questions for you. Davron is asking, you're an advocate for taking a little more time to make a bigger difference. What kind of influence has that mindset made when it comes to goal setting in your personal life? Or do you have any advice for creatives who might feel the pressure to move quickly just to keep up?
Oh my gosh. I think I still fight with this daily. Like, I think that I could be doing so much more and I start beating myself up for not doing more. And once again, just kind of be with it, watch it. And I just tell myself that everything is unfolding in a magical way. Like I will be doing exactly what I need to be doing. And I just keep reiterating that, even if some days I do not believe it and I just think I'm an utter failure and I just haven't done enough. Keep on reiterating that what I'm doing is enough. And as long as you're doing something,
Right.
as long as you're doing something, it doesn't matter. I would not, don't beat yourself up that you're not doing enough, because it's counterproductive, because then
Hmm.
you really won't be doing enough. Do whatever it is that you want to do and do it with all of the joy that you have, and focus on one thing,
Hmm.
that one thing. For me, I started getting scattered and I wanted to do this and I wanted to do that. And I'm a little guilty of maybe spreading myself a little too thin, but like the B Corp certification was huge for me, and the B Corp movement and helping the
Hmm.
B Corp
Hmm.
word grow. And as long as I'm doing that, I feel like it's a win. I'm doing enough.
Hmm.
And if I can, push my boundaries in my work and, work for more B Corps and make more brands B Corps, then it's a win-win-win. But I won. I made my business a B Corp. Like, at least I'm doing that. And my metrics and all of the stuff that goes around doing that. So take your wins. Take your
Okay.
wins. I'm sure everybody has wins. No matter where it is, there is a win in there. I don't care if you were like, okay, I am still recycling. That's a win.
Oh, okay. Question 2. This comes from Brian. What do you feel was one of the hardest aspects toward your B Corp certification transition?
For me, it was just, there was a lack of education when I went into it. I was like, I'm a sustainable business. I can do this. I can get the certification. And then when I started going through the process, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know anything. So I taught myself. There's so many more resources right now. So much stuff available. It was rather new-ish back then. And I was alone in Florida. There was nobody else that I could reach out to and be like, hey, how did you do X, Y, and Z? And now there's tons of resources, and there's me. You could call me and say, how did you do X, Y, and Z? And I'll tell you how I did X, Y, and Z. In fact, Dr. Kristen Joyce has a mountain of resources that her students have that literally cuts the time in half that you need to spend on that, the B impact assessment.
Thank you. Okay, if you would like to turn on your cameras and speak to Sirena directly, you're welcome to. We have about 15 minutes left. If anyone else has any questions, we shall see. While we wait. And while we're waiting, Sirena, if somebody wants to reach out to you, how can they find you?
LinkedIn is a good place to find me.
Okay, DMs.
Yeah, sure. There, and Instagram too. Siren Smile on Instagram, and Serena Andras, Serena Delmar Andras on LinkedIn.
I love it so much. It's so good. All right. So my final question for you, it looks like we don't have any other questions, is as you are evolving in your career and as you're becoming deeper into the B Corp path, what would you like to see the future look like? What are your dreams for humanity? And what are your dreams for yourself?
Oh my gosh. Every corporation is a B Corp.
Mhm.
And then I feel like we would have a lot of issues resolved just there. The other thing is, just on a personal level, people having some sort of a centering practice, getting out into nature, Tai Chi, yoga, meditation, whatever it is that brings you back to the whole you. So my theory of change is being able to live in a world where we get to be whole people on a whole planet. And I think a lot of the turbulence and chaos, and even like you think of pollution, think about all of this plastic that's in the ocean and in the rivers. And I think it's just a reflection of the plastic that's in our brains. I mean, I know there's physical plastic in our brains, but I mean that metaphorically, in like the junk that we're consuming, whether it's here or wherever, however it's coming into, however you're consuming it, junk that doesn't serve you. Like, take note of it. Take note of what's the junk, what's the bubble gum, what's the junk food, what's the junk news, and try and get back to something that's more real, that's more soulful, that's more whole person, whole planet. Whether it's whole food, doing something that's good for you, doing something that's good for the planet, whether it's you connecting with the planet, which might be hiking, might be diving, might be swimming, might be, I don't know, you find it, but connect back to the planet so you can feel whole, and you can feel the planet that's whole, and you can feel relationships with other people that are whole, that are real, that are not based on junk or around junk.
So what are a couple things that you did personally when you removed the junk out of your life?
Removing the junk out of my life. Removing the junk out of my life for me means maybe not buying into some of the drama and
Mhm.
creating better, more solid relationships with people.
Mhm.
Leaving the toxic corporate
Mhm.
do miracles for you. Um, Disconnecting a little bit from, what is going on social media that's that same kind of yuckiness that wants to pull us in so that we'll buy something.
Mm.
Um, and just the practice around that. The
So
practice around that.
while we're here, um, what about things like fashion and buying clothes? Like, how would you address something like that?
That is a little bit of the junky plasticness. There's a couple different sides to that. I understand that people want to feel their best and look their
Mhm.
best. Um,
Mhm.
and it's okay to want to do that. I don't want anybody
Mhm.
to shut that down or turn that off or whatever it might be, to ignore that.
Mhm.
But can you do it in a way that's true, really true to yourself and whole planet still? So yeah, buying 64 items of fashion a year is not being true to yourself, to the planet, to anybody, because that is literally filling a void
Right.
to, what is it, to better than the Joneses.
Yeah.
It's filling a void, really. Now I understand if you might buy 10 articles of clothing. Yeah, okay, I get it. So that there's that whole consumption. It goes back
Right.
to that consumption again. Reducing our consumption to something that makes sense. And in everything, in food and drink, in yeah, all of the above. I feel like there's 10 million places I can go from there. And to everybody, that's going to mean something different. But
Yeah.
where can you reduce, and where do you feel happy to reduce? Like, once you've reduced, do you feel better? Like when I've gone down to, like, not here on vacation in Spain, but back home, I might eat one meal and some snacks. That's it. And then you don't have to think so much about food. You don't, once your body gets used to it, it's a whole different feeling. And I feel at least so much better with less consuming of food. So, and obviously the less consuming of clothes. I mean, I, I also try to consume the clothes that I know that are going to have the best impact on the planet. So,
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like getting into those habits and then identifying, okay, so what do I really need and what can I give up without torturing myself? Is I love fashion. I love it. I love everything artistic, but I'm also aware that there's quite a price to pay. So I'm always looking for ways of, okay, so how can I make myself happy and still be responsible? I think that's a beautiful point because I think a lot of people associate some of these behaviors with being severe or being unhappy, or they don't want to do it because it's inconvenient or makes them not feel good. So I love that point. I think that's super important for people to realize they can be happy and responsible.
and that's going back to balance, right?
Yes.
It's balancing that happiness. Where can I consume less?
Mm-hmm.
I consume better.
Right.
Um, where can I make space instead of automatically consuming? I think that that's a really big one too.
Mm-hmm.
It's especially in media, in our little phones, because there'll be that little uncomfortable feeling, and you'll be like, oh, let me just numb myself on here. So what can I do? Can you catch yourself doing that? And what else could you do instead of that? And then you start seeing that in other parts of your life. Like, you'll see a brand new ad for some, really hot item, and you're like, oh, I really need to have that. Oh my God, I would look so amazing in that. And then you're like, wait a minute, that's that same feeling of automatic consumption to make myself feel better or numb myself. Wonder
Mm-hmm.
why. huh,
Mhm.
maybe the shoes that I have are good enough. Like maybe I can go to a swap and trade with somebody instead of buying those brand new ones off the shelf.
So that's leads me to my last question for you is how do you identify when you're thinking about buying something? How do you identify your need? Is this like a something I should buy for myself or I should just let the urge pass? How do you tell the difference?
I think that that's a really super personal question, and it depends on where your weaknesses are, right? Um, and
Okay.
it's one of those, maybe over here, maybe if 10 times I let the urge pass, this one time I'm gonna, take
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, that's a person on person basis. But I think that the bigger question or the bigger aha moment is, can you catch yourself? Can you see it? And maybe you don't stop yourself, but at least be, aware of it. Oh, I'm doing this because I don't need this. I don't want this. I want the status it portrays, or I
Mm.
want the numbing feeling or the high or the whatever it is. Can you catch yourself? I'm not even telling you to stop yourself right now. Just see it.
Hmm. I
And
love
then the
that.
more you see it, the probably at some point you'll be like, yeah, yeah. Now that I see it and I see it in all these different aspects of my life, where is it that I could cut it from or lean into it?
I love that. That's beautiful. Okay, so we are almost at the end of our podcast. I would one last chance to enter your question if you have one. I will give you just a couple minutes. And Sirena, I'm so grateful to have you here. It's such a joy to talk to you and to learn more about you. I love your multifaceted approach with Tai Chi and the way you coach the B Corps. I love your story about your name. It's so beautiful. Um, in the next 5 years, where do you see yourself?
Next 5 years, I see myself, I pretty much doing the same thing. I couldn't imagine wanting to do anything else. But hopefully with a larger team and
Mm.
more brands that are out there impacting the world. So maybe just growing a little bit so I could have that much more impact. But then I think about that. I'm like, "What?" And then I think about that and I'm like, why do I want that? Huh?
Yeah,
World need more brands out there?
that's a good question. Maybe the
Yeah.
world does need more conscious brands.
Put it this way, if I can shift brands, traditional brands from the way that they're operating to beautiful B Corps that, create great impact in the world and, feedback programs and people love working at, yeah, I'll take that any day. That kind of growth, that's good growth.
Yeah, right. As Brian says, create the alternatives.
Yeah.
Yeah, the alternative scenarios. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I want to thank the beautiful Sirena for all of her knowledge and wisdom. It is a joy to have you on the podcast. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will have this podcast up within a week or two on LinkedIn and across several channels like Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So you can catch the replay or share this if you like it. Sirena, thank you so much. And you can find Sirena on LinkedIn at Sirena Andras. And it's Sirena Smile at, tell me,
Oh, Siren Smile on
Siren Smile.
Instagram. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me, everybody. Sirena, have a lovely evening. I will see you all later.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.